Good afternoon and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Relationship Headquarters Live. I'm your host, Bob Grant, and today is about, and I think we've talked this some before, but it is about why arguing with a man is beneath a woman. And when I say that, oftentimes a lot of women will tell me, okay, this is just a way of not having conflict. Actually, arguing and conflict is a way actually to create intimacy. So I've had a few that have gone through the process. They've had a relationship and there's been conflict, and usually what happens with conflict with men and women too, but is there's a way they act out. Either I'm silent with you or I'm loud or whatever it is, and the purpose of that is to draw you back into conversation. So if I sulk and I don't say anything, I'm just going to sulk and pout, and eventually you're going to come around. At least that's what has probably been the pattern, or whatever reaction you do. And then I get to talk because it's on my terms. If you buy into that, the problem is that pattern can stay in place for your whole relationship. So when a woman doesn't give into that and she doesn't chase, it's going to feel foreign. It's going to feel mean. It's going to feel selfish. It's going to feel, goodness, he'll hate me. And, as I normalize it with them, depending on the situation, I go, you might be surprised. Now, what this also does is a man that's just mean or selfish in general, in other words, if he's used to always getting his way, this will make him worse. And when you don't buy into what he's doing, when you don't argue with him, don't banter with him, and really what you're doing with this is you're detaching. There's a phrase that says you never chase a distancer. And a distancer is someone that creates distance. They sulk, they pout, they don't talk to you. When you chase that, you're actually training them that it works. Think about a little child. They're mad and they scream. And you don't do anything. And they holler. And they do whatever else. Because when psychologists and therapists tell parents, to ignore the behavior, a lot of times what folks hear is, oh, I should just tolerate that. It's okay to do it. No, if they get out of bounds, you give them a consequence for it. But the idea is to quit talking and telling them you should stop. You should really stop. It's triple time to stop. Stop now. Please stop. That's what we don't want, because that's what they want you to do. Because a temper tantrum or sulking, it doesn't work as well when there's no audience. So when I say it's beneath you as a woman, it's not that you can't argue. It has nothing to do with intelligence or toughness, or it's not that you couldn't win an argument. It's that's the hard way to do it. And I mention this because the clients, there's a couple of them that are in this place, and they're just starting to get it where all of a sudden they've outlasted the man. And they say things to me like, wow, he's all of a sudden getting softer toward me. He's getting more friendly. They can't figure out why. Because if you did that to another woman, that would just add fuel to the fire. Why are you ignoring me? I say, because what you're doing is he's realizing that doesn't work. And that when that doesn't work, it takes a man a little while to realize, what am I going to put in place of it? Yes, he should be civil. Yes, he should just sit down like a mature adult. But when emotions are involved with a man, that's hard to do. It's overwhelming. This is what's worked before, whatever it is, screaming, sulking, debating, really loud. And so we want to give them time to sort of put stuff in place. It's not as simple as just let me tell you what to do, because then you'd be telling them what works for you. But a lot of times we can only help when someone's really asking for it or they're wanting it. And when a man's sulking or angry, he's not asking, even though you could help. I'm asking you not to do that then. We're trying to get his guard down. And when you outlast him with this, either he gets worse or he starts to come around, because remember, in relationships, it's always the strongest conviction that wins, good or bad. And our goal is not to have to do this much. If you're having to do this every week, let's reevaluate the relationship. If you're having to do this every day, honestly, I'm sure you'll be gone. This is the stuff that may happen occasionally, hopefully. And then when we do that, men do come back. They get softer. And it's not that they have to talk everything through. It's what they realize is that they can feel really angry and the relationship's okay. Is that I can be mad at you, or you can be mad at me and you're not going to leave. You're not going to make fun of me. And see, for men in general, or the emotions, we don't get a lot of practice with it. So, it's one thing with your buddies to get angry or whatever, because there's only so close you're going to get with your buddies. But to a woman who owns your heart, and to a woman who you're close to, it feels out of control, and that's the thing you hate the most, it's a learning curve for most men to realize we can disagree. You can be upset with me and we're still okay. A lot of times what men will do this is they're looking for a woman to jump in at that point and give too much advice or correct, because see, that justifies the feeling. When she doesn't play along and she's above it, I'm not saying you're not going to feel being upset. When you do that, then it makes it difficult for him. And that's how men get over stuff quicker, because she doesn't take this that seriously. Sometimes men take themselves too seriously. I'm sure most of you know this, but especially when they get angry. We get angry. That's men. Sometimes we do. So that's why if arguing is beneath you, then once it gets too competitive, or once it feels, uncomfortable, that's when you disengage. That's when you leave the room. That's when you end. I tell women, get out of that conversation. It's not that you can't win it. Unless it's life or death. Literally, like, you must get out of the car. It's about to blow up, or whatever else something would be. Disengage from that. Save it for another time. That's not sweeping it under the rug. That's actually saves intimacy, because you're not only modeling for him what to do, you're also modeling for him your value. You're too expensive. There's a compliment. You're too expensive to get down in the mud in the party dress. Why would you even think to do that? Because that's what an argument is. An argument is different than a discussion. We can disagree, but it's still safe. We can disagree. It's not competitive. We can still disagree. And as a man, I don't use my power against you. And I don't mean just physical. I mean the tone of my voice. I mean the look. Men go to that stuff all the time. It's what we do. But a man makes a conscious choice not to do that. And one of the best ways he does that is the woman reminds him if he goes out of bounds. Not horribly out of bounds, once he starts to drift. So that's why we do not want women, at least I don't. We try this, is not to engage in an argument. All right. I will see you next week, and I appreciate you joining us again. If you have any questions, join us at relationshipheadquarters.com, not only here in the Facebook group. And if you want to ask a question, if you join a newsletter, you can sign in to that and send a question. That's usually most of the questions we do first, those that have sent it in. All right. Everybody have a great week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.